What greatest completely legal loophole you found? Here in Costa Rica it's quite hard for foreigners to get a work visa or residency. However, it's very easy to enter the country as a tourist. The only requirement for tourists is that they can't be here for more than 3 months. So, instead of going through the whole process of getting a work visa, at least 80% of the people I know here with foreign blood simply drive up to the Nicaraguan border and come back every 3 months, allowing them to become what is known as a perpetual tourist. I know some people that have been exploiting that loophole, completely legally, for about a decade. You can't do this anymore either, but when the US was trying to introduce the dollar coin, they were offering each coin for exactly $1, no tax, free shipping, in an effort to get them into circulation. People were maxing out credit cards purchasing these coins for the frequent flyer miles, then turning around and depositing these coins back into their account, costing them nothing. I heard that some people got away with doing this many times, racking up millions of frequent flyer miles before they had to end the $1 with free shipping program.
That's an interesting move by people trying to game the system. Using credit cards to stack up on coins for points is a wild strategy. It makes sense, though. They were just looking to benefit from the airline miles. It's funny how a simple program can lead to some complex maneuvers. But I guess not everyone plays fair with these schemes.
This is on a much smaller scale than most things presented here, but I'm proud of it. My senior year in high school in Texas, 2002 to 2003, my friends and I found out that if you have too many absences you had to make up for it during Saturday school. Well, it turns out that Saturday school is only half a day and it makes up for 3 absences. So me and 3 other friends would constantly skip school. We didn't do sports, so we had all our credits anyway well before end of the year, and then on Friday nights have a lawn party and play Warcraft 3 or Star Wars Galaxies all night. The next morning tired as hell we drive to Saturday school and just kinda sit and stare/doze off for about 4 hours and have our absences erased.
The LAN parties sound like a good time, though probably not the best prep for Saturday school.
Criminal barrister here, a couple of my favorites. Young man arrested on possession charge after a vehicle search. He admits possession of cannabis and gives his reply to caution, which is recorded in the officer's notebook as, "Don't strip search me." The case is an anticipated guilty plea, but at the first appearance his instructions are that the officer threatened to strip search him if he didn't admit the drugs were his, takes it to trial on this issue. Officer denies ever mentioning strip searching the defendant. At trial the officer is questioned as to why the reply to caution was, "Don't strip search me," if the officer had never mentioned a strip search. Pretty clever to set that up in my opinion. I do a lot of road traffic work as well, and some of the points taken are quite entertaining, such as putting the prosecution to strict proof in respect of the speed limit for a particular road, and insisting upon a strict interpretation of what evidence would be permissible to that end.
It adds a layer of strategy to how cases are approached. Similarly, the road traffic work seems to involve nuanced arguments about evidence and speed limits. Overall, it shows how details can change outcomes in court.
Pretty small thing, but it's one I use really often. Stop signs in parking lots aren't legally enforceable. They're on private property and out of police jurisdiction. So the next time you're leaving Walmart at 3 a.m. feel free to roll through that annoying stop sign in the middle of the empty parking lot with no possible repercussions. You rebel. Edit. Looks like these signs aren't usually enforceable. Certain states may have adopted laws to allow ticketing for private property infractions. Check your local laws before becoming a 3 a.m. Walmart rebel.
That's an interesting point about stop signs in parking lots. It's true that they don't have the same enforcement as regular road signs. You can definitely take advantage of that when it's quiet. Better to be safe than deal with unexpected fines.
Throwaway. For obvious reasons, I have earned over $90,000 by getting compensated by airlines. This is a simple trick that works well. If you know certain routes at your airport are always oversold, just buy a fully refundable fare a few days before the flight takes off. Usually this will be one or more of the oversold tickets. Just go to the airport and offer to give up your seat and reap the rewards. If not needed, just refund your ticket. Usually I book 12 to 18 tickets in one day and hit one after another up until my planned departure in the evening. I try to spread it across 5+ airlines to avoid seeing the same staff. I fly for free everywhere in the world. Southwest has the best policy, usually $300 plus twice the value of your ticket. I have thousands of dollars of credit with all the airlines that I can't even use it fast enough.
This is an interesting way to game the airline system. Buying refundable tickets and giving up your seat can really add up. It's smart to spread it across different airlines to avoid repeat interactions. Earning that much through a simple trick is impressive. It's a unique strategy for free flights and making some extra cash. Just make sure you stay under the radar.
Worked at a restaurant where we had a promotion during the holidays. If you bought a $25 gift card, you get a $5 gift card as well as a bottle of sauce. I bought a ton of gift cards with my own money. I got the extra $5 gift cards and bottles. Sold the bottles of sauce for cheap on a local garage sales site. They retail for $8 from the restaurant. I also used the gift cards on all of my cash tables. Customer pays with cash. I use the gift cards to close out their check and use the cash to pay myself back for the gift cards. So basically, it was a free $5 for me for every $25 gift card I bought. I also won the gift card contest we had.
Seems like you found a solid way to game the system. Getting those extra gift cards and selling the sauce was smart. Using the gift cards for cash payments makes it even better. You turned a promotion into a nice profit. Winning the gift card contest was just a good bonus on top of it all. Pretty clever strategy overall.
Might not work outside France. When you blow more than the legal limit, the cops are supposed to take you to the station, where they get you to blow into another, more precise, machine. Afterwards, you attack the fine and/or suspension on the grounds that they don't keep logs for use of the machine at the station, and can't prove that it wasn't used in the 30 minutes before you used it. Alcohol having been ruled to stay in the air for 30 minutes by the higher courts. Edit, to be clear, I'm not for driving drunk. And here appeal on a fine or suspension can take up to 2 months.
This seems like a lengthy process to challenge a drunk driving charge. It relies on technicalities about the equipment used and timing of tests. It's interesting how legal loopholes can provide some defense, but ultimately, driving under the influence is risky. The appeal times add more stress for those involved. It's good to see you are not endorsing drunk driving while discussing this.
Not sure if this is proven or not, was driving 2 of my friends home from a bar one night. One of them was about to begin law school. We were exiting the parking lot and there's a side exit that makes it easier to get back to the main road. The only problem is that there is a sign next to it that says, "This is not an entrance." I was hesitant about going through it because police were always around that part of town due to the bar scene. My soon-to-be law school friend said, "We're not using it as an entrance, though. We're using it as an exit. Go ahead." Best use of twisting words I'd ever witnessed.
That's an interesting situation. It sounds like your friend was trying to justify using the exit in a clever way. It's funny how people can argue semantics when it comes to rules. It's also risky with police around, though. Hopefully it worked out for you all that night. Just goes to show how sometimes thinking outside the box can lead to questionable decisions.
You can gain the free voucher for voluntary bumping at most airlines by intentionally booking yourself on a busy earlier flight if you know that a less busy later flight will get you to your destination at a reasonable time. It requires some knowledge of the schedules, but there are predictable flights that tend to get overbooked all the time. I used to fly a Friday commuter shuttle every week. I could easily make my connecting flight if I took the 7 p.m. shuttle into DC, but I would book the 5:30 flight instead. Every week, I'd be the first one to jump up when they asked for volunteers. In 1 year, I accumulated enough vouchers and free round-trip tickets to take my wife and kids with me to Hawaii twice. Best of all, I'd always ask for, and receive, meal vouchers. So I got to eat dinner for free while I waited for the flight I actually would have booked anyway. It pissed off some of the gate agents, but what could they do? They needed those seats.
The story outlines a clever strategy for getting free flights and meal vouchers. The idea of intentionally booking an earlier flight just to volunteer to get bumped is interesting. It shows some thought into how to work the system. Plus, getting to Hawaii twice with family sounds nice. I guess knowing how airlines operate can sometimes give you an advantage. It's a bit shady, but it works.
I rented a store last year and we opened a small shop. It's in a small complex with 5 other shops. The owners of the property do not pay the bank for their loan and it gets repossessed by the bank and put up on auction. These same guys go and buy it again at auction, but with a different company. They have several. At the auction they have to come up with 20%, I think, and they pay that, but then nothing else. Yet they take the rental income this whole time. It takes about a year before repossession happens again, and they just repeat the same trick. The 20% they pay each time is way less than the rental income for a year, so they just keep on making this profit year after year. They have now done it twice since we started renting there. I don't know how long this has been going on. We spoke to the officer of the court at the last auction and he admitted to knowing what was going on, but said that they are not breaking any laws other than not paying their debt.
Those owners are just gaming the system, dodging their debts while still raking in money. It's frustrating to see them benefit from their actions repeatedly. The court officer's admission doesn't help either, since it's all legal. Just goes to show how loopholes can be exploited, and it makes running a business tough for everyone else in the complex.
Tax loss selling. I was working for a wealth management firm in Canada in November 2015 when Justin Trudeau became the Prime Minister. His campaign was largely centered around cutting taxes on the middle class and raising them on the upper class. All of our clients were very wealthy and impacted by the tax changes. Any capital gains on investments in Canada are subject to taxation. We spent the next couple of months engaging in tax loss selling, which essentially means selling off any securities, stocks, bonds, etc., where the client had a capital loss. This offsets any capital gains that would have otherwise been taxed and gets rid of shitty investments that didn't work out. If a client had $50,000 in capital gains, 50% or $25,000 of that gain is subject to tax. By selling off investments where there was a capital loss of $50,000, the client's net gain for that year is actually $0, which obviously can't be taxed. Doesn't seem like that big of deal, but if all of your clients had $20 million in capital gains for 1 year combined, that's $10 million that the government didn't get to tax.
This describes a pretty standard strategy in wealth management. It sounds straightforward, but it probably took some effort to navigate the client's portfolios effectively. The potential tax savings for those wealthy clients are significant, though it might not be the most exciting subject.
Not so much legal as a nice loophole. Many Serta mattresses, others may too, have a 10-year warranty against losing their shape. I know that Sam's Club will give you a refund in cash of 100% the purchase price with a receipt, no questions asked. Again, other places may too. I'm on my third mattress where I return the old one and pay a little more for the next nicer model. Eventually I'll either find a mattress that doesn't lose shape or I'll have a new mattress every year forever. Save your receipt.
That's an interesting approach to getting new mattresses. Sounds like you've got a good system going. Just keep track of those receipts, and you'll keep upgrading without much hassle.
Innocent until proven guilty. Not just we know he's guilty. Not just it must have been him, or someone like him. Not he was there. Proven guilty, regardless of how tedious that chore is and how obvious his guilt is. Proven. Yes, jump through all those useless hoops. I used to be a prosecutor. I am aware of how obvious guilt usually is. Even so, we went through the whole procedure. Otherwise we would have imprisoned or fined or even executed a person who was, by our law, innocent. Wasn't always like that. Used to be he turned me into a newt. Was sufficient, especially if the newt in question was well thought of by the mob, and the conjurer was a stranger. Used to be that it's obvious was proof enough. Greatest loophole ever. Not honored everywhere. Guilty until proven innocent seems un-American. It's un-British. It is French. Was French, anyway.
The idea of being innocent until proven guilty is important for justice. It's about ensuring that people don't get punished without proper evidence and processes. Even if something seems obvious, the legal system takes the time to investigate and prove guilt. It highlights how far society has come from chaotic methods of judgment. This principle isn't universally upheld, and its absence can lead to issues in fairness.
I have a cool one. My buddy overstayed by about 10 years in the US. Ran a company, paid taxes, no problem. But he couldn't fly anywhere obviously, and if he got in trouble with the law he could have been deported. Anyway, one day he got the shit beat out of him by a taxi driver. They tried to press charges, but for some reason they couldn't touch the guy despite knowing where he lives, works, etc. His lawyer found that he could apply for a victim of a violent crime visa. He did, and now he's legal, and can exit/enter the country without fear of deportation. There's obviously more to this story, but that's the gist.
That's an interesting situation. Kind of wild how legal loopholes can change someone's status. The fact that he turned a violent encounter into something that worked in his favor is pretty surprising. It sounds like he went through a lot, but at least there's a positive outcome now. I wonder what else happened along the way.
When George Washington lived in Pennsylvania, buying slaves was illegal in the state. However, owning was not, but only for a small period of time per the Gradual Abolition Act of 1780, which said that any slave who entered Pennsylvania with an owner and lived in the state for longer than 6 months would be set free after that time. Rather than buy all new slaves after 6 months, he would send them to the Mount Vernon estate in Virginia with his wife and, after a day, they would return and the clock would start over again. Obviously not legal now, but a legal loophole then and completely secret from anyone but the Washingtons and their legal advisor.
It's interesting how Washington navigated the laws of the time. He found a way to keep his slaves while technically adhering to the legal structure. The loophole he used shows how people can exploit rules for personal gain. It raises questions about morality and legality, especially concerning freedom and autonomy. Just a reminder of the complexities in history, and how people viewed these issues differently back then.
A case from the 90s in the UK. A man called Cheeseman was caught masturbating in a public toilet by 2 police officers after several complaints had been made. He was taken to court, and the law that he had been charged under was unclear in terminology, as it was from the 1800s and had old language. The section in question was that a person cannot reveal themselves to a passenger. Passenger, in the 1800s when the law was made, meant passerby. As the police were there on business and were not passersby, they were not covered by the act, and Cheeseman got away with openly masturbating in front of police.
This case is pretty bizarre. The old law didn't clearly apply to the situation since the police were technically there for a job, not just passing by. It's interesting how outdated regulations can lead to unexpected outcomes. Cheeseman managed to escape charges because of a loophole, which is a reminder about the importance of updating laws to fit modern contexts.
This one isn't necessarily great since it can get drunk drivers off the hook, but it's interesting. In Maine, police have to wait 15 minutes from your last drink before giving you a breathalyzer. If you burp, the clock restarts. They do this because alcohol vapors in your mouth can severely skew the device. Of course, they can still have you perform all the other tests. Someone told me this a number of years ago and I didn't believe him, but I read about it on some law firm's website later on.
That's a pretty odd law. It makes sense they want accurate breathalyzer results, but waiting 15 minutes seems excessive. I guess burping can really mess things up. It's strange how different places handle these situations. Other tests can still go on, though. It's all about getting the right reading, I suppose. Overall, just a unique approach to managing DUI checks.
It's a pretty small loophole in the bigger scheme of things, but for a broke college student as myself, it's pretty important for me. We have an IHOP on campus. One of the most filling meals it offers comes with hash browns, choice of meat, 2 eggs, and 2 pancakes. It's around $10 for the whole thing. However, my college also offers a meal plan that allows us to swipe our college ID at certain restaurants for certain meals. For example, at that same IHOP, you can get hash browns, choice of meat, and 2 eggs for 1 swipe. Getting a side of 2 pancakes is $1.15. I've abused this quite a bit, as I'm getting a $10 meal for around $2. It might not be the biggest loophole out there, but damn is it a nice one.
Seems like you've found a solid way to stretch your budget. It's good to see you're making the most of the options available to you. Just be careful not to push it too far.